Hey bag makers, I'm Sarah Lawson from Sew Sweetness. Thanks so much for joining me for Sewcial Sunday, my weekly sewing chat. Hey everybody, happy Sunday. Welcome to Sewcial Sunday and thank you so much for joining me. I see Diana's watching from Florida, Trisha from Colorado, and Susan from California. I just wanted to let you know we're having a little difficulty tonight with pulling up our YouTube comments. Your comments are being posted to YouTube, but as far as the software that we use for live streaming, it's not pulling up the YouTube comments. So this won't affect the giveaways for tonight's show whatsoever, so don't worry about that. But if you do have a question or you think you might have a question for me for my Q&A section later, you might want to jump over to Facebook to type that question. Otherwise, feel free to stay over on YouTube. And sorry for the inconvenience. So as Danny promised last Sunday, we did reach our 75,000 subscribers on YouTube. So thank you everyone for subscribing. We're going to be giving away two $75 gift certificates for Facebook viewers and two $75 prizes for YouTube viewers. And we're going to be counting all of tonight's comments. So I'll be drawing 4 total randomly drawn winners for those $75 gift certificates, and every time you comment, that's an entry. It can be a comment like Tracy, who says hi from New Jersey. It could be a comment like that. It could be an answer to one of my questions later on in the show, or if you see something that I've shown on the show and you say something like, oh, that's really cool, all of those comments will be counted for the prizes. So before I get started, just a friendly reminder, just about everything that I talk about during Sewcial Sunday are things that I've purchased myself. So these are not things that I'm getting paid to talk to you about, but just cool things that I found that I'd like to share with you, and everything that I'm scheduled to talk to you about I link to in the description. So if you're interested in finding out more about any of the notions, fabrics, books, or projects that I talk about during Sewcial Sunday, just check that link in the description and you can find out more information there. So my favorite portion of the show, the notion of the week. I purchased a new hardware organizer. My previous organizer was okay, but it wasn't holding the amount of hardware that I wanted. So I purchased this new one. We have a lot of organizers in the studio for our inventory from the company called Acro Mills, and so I purchased this organizer over on Amazon, but from that same manufacturer. And I'm going to slide it over here. I purchased actually 2 of them just because I know the different types of hardware and I like to use a bunch of different colors. And so I'm going to hold it up really quick so that you can get a scope of how big it is. I haven't started filling it up with hardware yet, but I did want to show it to you and show you, I guess, how much that it fills. First of all, it's super sturdy. I was thinking of, because I generally use about 3 different colors of purse hardware. I like using silver. Gunmetal is probably the color I use the most often. I do use rainbow occasionally, but not as much as silver or gunmetal. And I thought maybe to divide the organizer up in rows by colors just to keep it organized. So I thought, since I have 2 of these, I thought maybe the first 2 rows, one color, the next 2 rows, another, and so on. So I could technically have 4 different colors. And I counted all the drawers, 12 drawers for each color. Seems about reasonable, or maybe more than enough. I'll have to see once I get it filled. So I'm going to pull out one of the drawers. They're sturdy plastic, and there is kind of a hook on the back over here so that the drawer just doesn't fall off. It kind of gets hooked on. I'm going to have Danny switch to the overhead just to show you what each bin fills. So in this particular bin, I've got 20 pieces of hardware. These are 1.5-inch sliders, and I don't know if I can hold this sideways, but it's barely filling the bottom of the drawer. So as you can see, I can fill probably at least 50 or 60 pieces of hardware in here if I was purchasing that many. So it gives me confidence that so much fills in each drawer, because I can use assorted things like twist locks or parachute buckles, and I know that everything will fit in the drawer and I can have extra on hand, because certainly everyone likes to have extra things in their stash in case they run out, so they always have, or most often have, the supplies that they need. So this is the new hardware organizer that I'm going to be using. I'm going to be keeping this down in the basement with the fabric, because that's where I decided to store my fabric now. I have a question for you. Let me know in the comments. How do you store your purse hardware? So maybe you have some sort of organizer like this already. Maybe you have reused other plastic containers to keep your hardware in. Maybe use Ziploc bags. Let me know how you store your purse hardware. All right, I'm gonna slide that big boy out of the way. And so I finished a quilt this morning. I've been working on it for maybe a little under 2 weeks. It's the Meadowland quilt. I was showing you the quilt blocks previously while I was working on them. So I made 30 blocks in all. I'm making this quilt for my therapist. So Danny's going to put a couple of pictures on the screen right now. There's the quilt. It was a bit sunny today. I did the best I could taking the pictures, but I think you can probably get an idea. I used all blues and greens solids, and then I mixed in some Essex linen metallic and gold. So the gold isn't as shimmery in the pictures, but it's really metallic looking and pretty, and I thought it would be a nice to fill in with the blues and the greens. So I had lots of fun making the quilt. I'm going to send it off to my long arming friend Stephanie over in Minnesota. She's going to long arm it for me, and then I'll put the binding on, and I can't wait to give it to my therapist for a gift. Another quilty thing that I've been working on this week is I'm participating in the Summer Sampler 2020 Quilt Along, which is a paid quilt along. My friends Lee, Faith, and Katie are running that, and the link's in the description in case you're interested in finding out more. The second block is posting either tonight or tomorrow morning, and I just wanted to share the first block that I made. So I had a really hard time choosing fabrics for this, but I decided to go with all yellows and greens and blues, and the yellows are more on the shade of slight mustard shade, I guess. I contemplated putting in some pinks, purples, and oranges. Orange is kind of like a sorbet color scheme, but I think I might stick with blues, greens, and yellows. I'm still undecided. I kept the pinks and purples in the studio, so when I'm making the second blocks, I might change my mind at the last minute, but this is the Summer Sampler 2020, and this year's theme is Easy Piecing Summer, so it's all blocks that are easier than they look. And I'm gonna have Danny flip over to the overhead camera really quick. So even though this looks really intricate with the 3 different colors, it's basically this one block right here, and you just make the same thing 9 times, same exact color order, and then just depending on how you flip the fabric, that creates the overlocking colors, and that's why I used blues, yellows, and greens so that I could get that green in there where the blue and the yellow intersect. So the block went together super fast, and I'm looking forward to making the rest, and hopefully I can actually finish the quilt this year. I've participated in past Summer Sampler quilts, and I'll get like a few blocks done the first few months and then taper off. So I'm really dedicated to finishing all 12 blocks this year. New fabrics that I've added to my stash. I have some good ones to share with you this week, or at least I think they're good ones. I'm gonna have Danny switch back over to the overhead camera. And the first set of fabrics is from Allison Glass's Sunprint line. These are all lights, that's what the line is. So they're all white background fabrics with a color of line work. So low volume is what sometimes people call these types of prints. So I'm just gonna flip through all these. This one's my favorite because it's a really hot neon pink. I like that one a lot. And I thought I would use these perhaps, I'm not sure, maybe either a background in a quilt, because I like throwing some extra texture in the backgrounds, or maybe I'll pair it with either a solid or, I don't know, maybe a really bold, large scale print. I think I bought, these feel like half-yard pieces. I must have purchased half-yard pieces of all of these. And again, I've linked to this fabric in the description in case you're interested in either a bundle or maybe just one of the prints. And I like that they're still rainbow colors. So besides the Allison Glass fabrics, I've also added some other random fabrics. So I purchased a few yards of this small scale hot pink unicorn print. I'm not sure what I'll make with it, but of course I can pair it with any of the horse fabrics that I have. And this is an older, several years old fabric print from Allison Glass's fabric line Ex Libris, and this is a panel print. So I'm going to try to share with you. Each panel is 8 of these big circle prints, and it comes in 2 different colorways. So I got the gray, I also got the white. I did have it in my stash previously, but I thought maybe I'll buy some more just before it goes out of print and I can't find it again, because it's really great. Here's my hand on the circle. As you can see, it's a really huge circle, great for the center of a large tote bag. I have a new pattern that I'm thinking of in my head that circle would be perfect in the center of. So the next few fabrics are from a fabric line from Camelot Fabrics called Enchanted Forest, and I just thought they were really super cute and whimsical. So the mouse print is adorable. I didn't purchase the whole fabric line, I just purchased a few of my favorite fabrics from the line. I really liked this one too, especially with the mouse. I think it'll be a really nice contrast, and it's a really pretty pink background. And here's the same print but with a gray background. And then these really cute little mushrooms. So again, that was Enchanted Forest from that fabric line. And this last fabric that I picked up is from the Butterscotch fabric line from Dana Willard. And this is the only, I just picked up this one fabric from the line. I really like geometric prints. I like florals, and this kind of combines both with, I don't have a lot of orange fabrics in my stash, so I thought this would be really great. And I think it would look really nice with some navy cork to contrast the orange. So those are all of the fabrics that I've added to my stash. The kids have still been busy this week doing various crafts, things to keep busy, and I wanted to share with you this actual working speaker that William made. Danny helped him out with it, but William made it all himself. He assembled it. We purchased this kit from KiwiCo, and we've purchased kits from KiwiCo in the past. You might have seen the soap kits that I was sharing I think it was a couple weeks back. But this was the kit, light up speaker. It came with all the tools that you need, right Danny, all the tools? Yes, he's nodding his head. Except scissors, everyone has scissors. And a booklet. It was a 40-page booklet with instructions, full color illustrations. So William was really excited to put this little speaker together. It's not a loudspeaker, not something that you would use outside, or but it's great for his bedroom. Comes with a plug. He just plugs it into his phone, and he was really proud when he finished it. So again, that kit is from KiwiCo, but they have lots of kits for various age ranges, some artsy kits, some science or STEM kits. So there's a broad range of kits over on that website. So I have another question for you. Let me know in the comments, what was your favorite craft as a child? So I had to think hard about this, but I think one of my favorite crafts as a child was rubber stamps. My mom had a great collection of rubber stamps, and I remember sitting at the kitchen table stamping up. I think the most common thing we stamped with the stamps was bookmarks, and then we'd color them in with either markers or colored pencils. So it was a lot of fun, and I remember using the rubber stamps. And back when we had the stamps, it seemed like the craze of the moment. We'd go to this rubber stamp store, not near our house, I think it was about a half hour away, pick out new stamps. Like the whole store was wall to wall with the rubber stamps. So it was something to look forward to, definitely, and a fun trip with my mom. So in lieu of the book review for tonight, I wanted to share with you a bunch of new patterns that I picked up. Danny's going to switch back over to the overhead camera. And this, I admit this one looks super simple, but I wanted something for not placemats, napkins, and I'm sure a lot of people could figure this out by themselves, but I just didn't feel like doing that, so I purchased this pattern for tablecloths and napkins. I'm just going to make the napkins, but I don't know, the tablecloths don't look that bad either. A few quilt patterns from Zen Chic. She has so many that I really love, but these are the 3 that I picked up. I think I might make this one first because it looks really simple, and I think you can use a jelly roll for this one. Yes, this one is jelly roll friendly, in case you have a jelly roll in your stash. And I got these 2 garment patterns from the Crafty Gemini website. I'm sure a lot of you follow Vanessa from Crafty Gemini already. I saw on her social media last week that she posted she'd gotten some new Jaylee garment patterns, and so I purchased these 2. So this one is like a ruffle top, and this one's a dress or a shirt. I'm going to make the dress version because I really like how it looks with the belt. I looked online before I started opening these up, and the J-Lee patterns are drafted for a B cup, so I'm just going to be doing a little bit of alterations to my pattern pieces because I usually sew for an A cup. So a simple alteration that I need to do to my pattern pieces first. I like using Pellon Easy Pattern to transfer my pattern pieces so that I can easily make any modifications to my pieces before I start working with my fabric. I think I might start working on that ruffle top tomorrow. I can't decide between the dress or the top which one I should make first because I really like both of them. I thought I might use this fabric that I haven't shown it on the show yet, but I just picked up this rayon fabric from Cotton and Steel. This is Rifle Paper Company fabric, and some of the other prints from this fabric line were sold out, but I was able to pick up this lemon print, and I think I purchased enough for either the dress or the top, so I can't decide. Let me know if you think I should make the dress or the top first. Danny's favorite part of the show. We'd like to invite all the bag makers to stand proud. Let us know that you're part of the Sew Sweetness squad. We really appreciate you watching the show, whether you join us live or you watch the recording later on in your week. And again, thank you for helping us get to 75,000 subscribers. And I'll be announcing the winner of those 4 $75 gift certificates on the show next Sunday. All right, so my demonstration for tonight is something that I've been wanting to do for a while. Some of you have let me know in the past that you're interested in either printing out labels for your bags or quilt labels that you can put onto the back of the quilt, especially if you're giving it for a gift, or I think probably all quilts should have some form of label letting people know the maker, maybe the year it was made, perhaps who it was gifted to if it was for a gift. So I picked up 4 different types of printable paper, and I wanted to see which one looked the best as far as colors and sharpness. And so I'm going to have Danny switch back over to the overhead camera, and I'm going to share with you the 5 different types that I purchased. Let's start with this one right here. All right, so this is the Threads brand. It's cotton poplin fabric, 6 sheets of paper. All the packs came in between 3 and I think 12 sheets of paper. So I printed out the Sew Sweetness logo, sorry about that, and I printed out a picture. So a logo and a picture, printed out the same logo and picture for each one. And for each of these, one side of the fabric is either shiny or feels like paper. And then the other side, the fabric side, is the side you print on. So you'll just need to be familiar with your printer to know which side it prints on, if you need to put the paper face down. In my printer, I needed to put these so that the fabric was face down. And the reason that they're backed by a form of paper is so that your printer can take them in. So that it works with any type of printer, and it needs to be an inkjet printer though. So most people have that in their homes. I thought the image looked great. The logo looked really great. I'm gonna flip through all 5, and then I'm gonna give you my feedback as to which one I thought looked the best. So the next one is from EQ, sewable fabric sheets, and this is the cotton satin version. So a little bit higher of a thread count than some of the other ones, and 6 sheets of paper. And I wanted to let you know that all of the instructions are different. So some of these, after you print, you need to soak in water and then you can sew with. Some of them you need to iron. That second process after printing is what sets the color. So it's an important process, and you'll just want to follow all of the instructions depending on which one you purchase. So again, logo looks great, nice and crisp. Photo looks good. I feel like this photo looks crisper than the threads, the first one that I shared, and the color is a little bit slightly punched up. So this one's slightly better than the first one that I shared with you. Next one is from the same company, but it's the Cotton Basics. So the first one was the Cotton Satin. This is the Cotton Basics, so 200 thread count. Same process with the print, soak, and sew. My logo I thought looked really good. Comparing it to the previous one, looks just as good. The photo that I printed looks just as good. I really can't tell much of a difference. Okay, next one is from a different company. This is from June Taylor, and this one is the only one I tested that was an iron-on. Just to let you know about that, the logo looks pretty crisp for this one. I accidentally printed the picture a little bit bigger. The colors look just as good as the EQ papers. And then the final one that I tested, which I'm gonna, spoiler alert, let you know that this one was the one that I liked the best. This is the June Taylor, but the sew-in color fast. So the other June Taylor that I showed you was the fusible. Pretty much if you're only going for text or logos, they all look equally as good. However, this June Taylor color fast, the colors were definitely as bright as the color that I would be looking at on my computer screen. So I'm mainly looking at the screen to test it. All of the pictures looked just as sharp, but the color on this one was definitely punched up. Let me pull out one of the other ones that I shared with you. Maybe you can see the difference. Yeah, I'm sure you can see the difference looking at the green and then looking at the green over here. Yeah, the grass, it's just not as bright. So I think my winner out of all of the different types that I tested, granted I did not actually use these in a sewn quilt, so I can't tell you over time which one will keep its color the best, but I also wanted to note that all of them peel off in some form because you need to remove that backing. That backing is just to get it through the printer, and this is just fabric right here. Jane says, which one was softer, like cotton fabric and not stiff? That's a good question. Let me feel all of them really quick. So it's probably hard for me to say with the feeling because some of these you need to wash or soak first. And the soaking process or the washing process is going to definitely make them feel softer. Let me try to peel this one back too. This one definitely feels more like paper. This is the EQ. But again, sometimes with digitally printed fabric, sometimes when you wash it, it gets softer. Let me try to peel this threads one back. So just feeling the fabric before treating it, the threads one feels softer, but it's also thinner. So this one, the threads one, feels most like fabric that I'm used to working with, and this one's a little bit more papery. But if you're only using it for a quilt label, I think any of these would be suitable. However, if you're making like a t-shirt quilt with a lot of pictures, you might want to go with the threads version, especially if you're making it for a quilt with a lot of printed pictures. This one feels really nice and soft. So hopefully that helped. Again, links to all of these are in the description, but the Color Fast had the brighter color in my opinion. All right, hope you enjoyed that demonstration. I also wanted to let you know that if you're making your own quilt labels, if you'd like to have some things written on the labels, I highly recommend these micron pens. I purchased this pack and it had 6 different pens with different widths of tips, so different thicknesses when you're writing with them. I have a friend named Amy. Her website is During Quiet Time, and she's formerly worked at a museum dealing with textiles and things like that. And as far as archival quality pens, these are the ones she recommended, and these are the ones that I linked to in the description. You might have seen other quilters using markers or pens like these to mark the backs of their quilts. I know Tula often does it with her name, Angela Walter's name, who long arms her quilts for her generally. So these are good to use for that. And I also wanted to let you know that I looked on Etsy before the show. If you're not super graphic or high tech as far as computers go, you can go on Etsy and there's tons of listings for artwork for quilt labels or other types of sewn in labels, and you can just purchase a pre-designed label and then perhaps use these micron pens to fill in your relevant information like your name, the date, and so on. All right, let's get over to some questions. If you have a question for me, let me know in the comments, either a bag making related question about a notion or tool, or a sewing related question. So I'll give you a minute or two to get those questions in. I also wanted to announce the winner of last week's giveaway, and that winner is Aisha. Martawa did Jojo, so I'm sure I pronounced that incorrectly, but congratulations to Aisha. Contacted you on social media, and I'm hoping to hear back from you with your information so that we can mail out your prize. And there will be another giveaway at the end of the show, so stay tuned for that. So Erica says, which printer did you use? I'm planning on buying a new printer soon, and I'd like to make another photo quilt. Danny, can you let me know what the printer that we have is?
Epson ET7750.
Okay, Danny's letting me know that our printer is an Epson ET7750. We just got it. We've had it for a few weeks, and I'm really pleased. We had a good printer previously, but this one I think prints even more crisp, especially with the colors. Ramona says, what happens if you cut them if you want to use it as a bag label? That's a great question, and I also wanted to let you know some of the packets of the print-on fabric said that some shrinkage can occur, so just account for, I think the one package said account for a 1/4 of an inch, so cut it a 1/4 of an inch larger, or account for that while you're printing or orienting your design on the fabric to leave at least a 1/4 of an inch or larger around the border in case it shrinks. And you definitely should pre-treat it before putting it into your quilt, so then when the finished quilt is washed, you don't have this shrunken label on the back. Tiona says, would these be good to repair a hole in an old quilt? That's a great question, and I'm probably not the expert here in answering that particular question, but I know lots of you that are watching are probably more well-versed than me in that area. So if you know the answer to Tiana's question, repairing a hole in an old quilt, actually I have a hole in one of our quilts that I need to repair as well. Let me know what the best way to repair that would be, and Danny will look for some of those answers in the comments. Hopefully we can put them up on the screen. Susan says, how does the cost per sheet compare? I don't remember off the top of my head, but I think that packet of threads, the first one that I shared, was, I think it was $7.63, something like that. The price varies because some packets have, like this has 6 sheets in it. Some of them only had 3, like the June Taylor packets, they only had 3 pieces, and so that's why I had that one printout that was gigantic, because I wasted one of them printing out a shipping label by accident. The EQ has let's see, 6 sheets as well. So most of them only have a few sheets. I did see bigger packets on Amazon for more sheets, obviously more expensive. But since I was just doing this experiment for the show, I just purchased the smallest sheet packs possible. Mary Jo says, question, when you're building your stash, how much fabric do you purchase? Oh, that's a great question. So starting from scratch, I'm trying to think. The first fabric that I ever purchased many, many years ago, I bought a bunch of Michael Miller fabrics, and I think I might have purchased maybe 10 or 12 different pieces of fabric. At the time, I didn't know what I was doing, so I bought half-yard pieces. If you're concentrating more on bags, I would recommend 1-yard pieces, and it's always good. I like having, as far as linings go, I like having a lot of monochromatic prints in my stash for linings, just because they can go with lots of different fabrics, rather than if you're purchasing from the same fabric line. Sometimes just those 2 fabrics might go together, but the smaller scale print or fabric that you purchased from your lining might not go with other fabrics. So if you're purchasing either a solid, like I was using in my quilt blocks, or a monochromatic print, and by monochromatic, that just means one color. So for example, the Allison Glass fabrics that I shared, maybe not white for a lining, but something like this with maybe just 1 or 2 colors, that would be great to collect in your stash to use as linings, because you can pair them with different exterior fabrics. Renee says, do you ever have to use a hump jumper with your Juki when sewing a bag together? So I normally don't. I should. It's always good to use a hump jumper. We have one in the shop in 2 different widths. The Big Jig, I think it's called. But what a hump jumper does is it just kind of equalizes the height of the thickness of the seam, so that when you sew over the seam and you're sewing on just non-seam fabric, you're still getting the same stitch length. Because sometimes when you sew over thick seams, your stitches tend to bunch together and you get lots of little tiny stitches. And if you used a product like the hump jumper or the Big Jig, it would equalize all your stitches so that they looked the same. Sally Ann says, does the ink from the Micron pens wash out? So it shouldn't wash out. Let me check. It does say archival ink right on the package. Let me just read from the back of the package really quick. It says archival quality ink is waterproof, chemical resistant, fade resistant, bleed free, quick drying, and pH neutral. Hopefully that was helpful. I think that sums up that it's good to use for quilt labels, but you can always test this on your fabric first before you start writing on the quilt label, and I'd probably recommend it if you have a scrap of fabric that's the same type of fabric as the fabric you're using from your quilt label. It's good to test the pen first just so you get familiar with the smoothness of the writing and all that stuff. Marcia Freeman says, did you make the dress? If so, what pattern? So it's been a while since I've worn a handmade garment on the show, I think. This is something I made a few years ago. I made 2 of them. The pattern is from April Rhodes. It's called the Staple Dress. What I like about it is it has elastic. Danny, can you move the question off the screen for just 1 second? You sew this elastic over here, so it's more of a fitted look, and you can adjust wherever you want. According to the pattern, you can adjust wherever you want the elastic. So I like it over here underneath the bust. I've seen some people have it lower down, and I used a fabric from Art Gallery Fabrics designed by my friend Barry J. I think it was from the Bloomsbury Lane fabric line, but it was a voile fabric, so has a little bit more drape than a quilting cotton, and it's really thin and light, and I love this type of fabric for summer because it's nice and cool. And yeah, I really liked sewing this. I sewed it kind of tunic length, so it's just above the knee, so I could either wear it as a dress or pair it with jeans or leggings, something like that, which is usually what I do. Yeah, thanks for the question about my dress / top. Oh, Danny, I just answered that one.
I know, I had to put it back up.
Okay.
People appreciate the way you're looking.
Evelyn says, I don't have a question, but can I say how pretty you look tonight? Love the dress and the hair. Oh, thank you, Evelyn. I really appreciate that. Yeah, those words mean a lot to me. I've been struggling. I think it's probably the anxiety of the quarantine and all that, but I lost a little bit of weight in the last few months, and I'm working with a nutritionist, so everything's fine, but definitely getting upset sometimes about my weight, and I didn't mean to lose weight, certainly. It's just something that happened, and I didn't notice what was happening at the time, but definitely working on that. And so comments like that make me feel good because I was struggling earlier today with that whole losing weight issue. Cynthia says, what color thread do you use with natural cork? I do have, dang it. Danny, can you maybe jump over and get a thread out of my drawer for me? No? Okay. I'll let you know the Aurifil color that I use with the natural cork after the show. Perhaps I'll type it in the comments in the Facebook group. It's just a really light colored beige thread, but I'll give you the color number just so you have it in the Facebook group after the show. Jamie says, when making a quilt with paper piecing, do you wait to take out the paper after sewing on the border? So that's a really great question. If I'm using printer paper or copy paper, I tend to take the paper out when I finish the block. If I'm using fusible paper, like I like using the Hugs and Kisses paper for paper piecing, either English paper piecing or foundation paper piecing, that particular paper is water soluble. So if I'm using that paper, I leave it in my quilt until it's completely finished. I machine quilt it with the paper in. When I wash it for the first time, then the paper dissolves in the quilt, in the fully completed bound quilt. So normally we do carry that Hugs and Kisses applique paper in the shop. We're out of stock, and we'll probably be out of stock until at least the middle or end of the summer, just because the manufacturer of that product is located in Australia, and just because of the shipping situation right now, it's really hard to get products incoming. But again, either your regular printer or copy paper, just take it out, or if you're using the Hugs and Kisses applique paper, you just leave the paper in and it washes out. Tricia says, Sarah, what is the size of the individual clear containers in your storage unit? That's a great question. Let me grab, I do have a ruler over here, so I'm going to pull out one of these. All right. It is 5 inches deep, about 4 inches long, and 2 inches high. So 2 inches high, 5 inches from front to back, and then 4 inches across. So a pretty good size. And he's cooking up some more questions for us.
Try to copy the YouTube questions.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Danny. How do you set up your time to create? That is a tough one. I admit I'm an early riser. I like to go to bed kind of early. I like to, I don't know, between 8 and 9 if I can, you know, just to watch TV or read a book. Usually wake up by myself at 6 o'clock on my own. I like to come down in the morning, get some work done, answering emails first thing in the morning if I can. And then I try to make time for sewing. I am my best earlier in the day as opposed to in the evening, because in the evening I start to get tired already. But like that quilt I finished today that I shared pictures with you of, that quilt I finished before lunchtime. So yeah, it's hard to manage. If anyone has any tips on scheduling creative time, I'm trying to work on that, at least for the summer, to see if I can do better. Sheila says, planning to buy a new sewing machine that I can use for quilting too. Please suggest a good one. So I wish I had experience with lots of different types of sewing machines, but I really only have experience with mine. I have a Juki TL2010Q, and I also have, they're basically the same exact machine, but I also have the Juki QVP 2200 sewing machine. If you're curious to see what my sewing machine is like, we do have a video on the YouTube channel or on my website. Just look for, in the Sew Sweetness channel, my sewing machine, and that video should pop up. I think it's about a 5 or 6 minute video showing all the features of the machine, and I also show you sewing through lots of layers of cork and interfacing. My machine is straight stitch only though, so if that bothers you, that's something you should probably know, but I don't have a problem with the straight stitch, and I've had the machines, the first Juki I got in 2013, so I've had those machines for years, and they're true workhorses, and I never really have issues with them. I do take them for maintenance every couple years or so, but other than that, no issues. Linda says, love the bag with the typewriter fabric. Which pattern is it? This one right here. It is the Amethyst Project bag. I made a few of these, but I think this is the one that I made for the Amethyst video. Inside, I designed it to either hold sketchbooks, it'll hold 12-inch quilt blocks, it's got a mesh zippered pocket here, elastics for holding pens or pencils, a little zipper pouch over here so you can have all of your creative things in one case. And this is a great bag to hold. Actually, now that I have this bag in front of me, this would be really cool for one of those fabrics that I printed out from my printer, maybe a picture of smudge on the front, that would, or you know, your kids or grandkids, or whatever, your favorite picture. Marjorie says, I fix holes by applique, maybe a flower or a butterfly. That's a great idea, and something you could either do by hand or a machine. So applique, that was the answer to the question earlier for how to repair a rip or a tear in a quilt. Gwen says, is your printer an inkjet or a laser? It's an inkjet printer. Diana says, where can you get the June Taylor sheets? I do have a link in the description showing links to all the projects that I talked about tonight, and the links to all 5 of those papers that I shared with you. That you can find the link in the description. Rebecca says, do you ever repurpose items for bags? I have in the past, as far as, I'm not sure if you're talking about thrift store bags, but the thrift store is a great place to find really inexpensive store-bought bags, and then you can cut the pieces off of the store-bought bags that you need, mainly the purse hardware. And especially some bags have tons of purse hardware. I don't think I've gone as far as repurposing a zipper, but the purse hardware definitely takes really no time at all to cut some purse hardware off of an old bag. Cindy says, I'm considering purchasing a rivet press. Can you recommend what to buy? So I purchased my press from Minkus Margot on Etsy. I think maybe the shop owner is taking a break right now. I don't have experience with other rivet press sellers, but I have seen in the past that a lot of people also purchase their rivet presses from Gold Star Tools. And again, I don't have any experience with them. I've never purchased anything from them, but if you need another source to investigate, Gold Star Tools. And Dolores says, do you carry Chicago screws? We don't currently. I'm still looking for a source for the Chicago screws, but if you're not familiar with Chicago screws, they're a really great alternative to rivets, and you don't need any special tools to install Chicago screws. You just need a Phillips screwdriver. Will you be getting more hardware in stock soon? So our hardware was shipped recently from overseas, so we're still waiting on that shipment. It's probably going to be a few weeks. However, we will be relisting the zippers and zipper pulls in stock on the website this week, and I have 5 new styles of zipper pulls, including a sewing machine pull, which I'm really excited about that. So watch on the website this week for those to be relisted. Donna Lynn says, can you recommend a chalk pencil for marking quilting lines? I'll be working on a Hawaiian quilt that will be very light with light off-whites and 9 shades. So the best as far as chalk coming off the fabric when you're finished with the lines, in my opinion, is Clover Choco in white. I do not recommend any Clover Choco in other colors because in my experience they have not come off 100%. So Clover Choco would be my recommendation. I also like using the Sewline Pencil Trio. It has 3 different colors, white, pink, and black. But as far as the color coming off, definitely the Clover Choco is the best out of everything I've ever used. Hopefully that helps. And Trisha says, it's super cute. What type of fabric is the dress? So it's voile. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I think I am after all these years. Art Gallery Fabrics makes a ton of really pretty voile fabrics, and this is also a print from Art Gallery, and the designer is Barry J. She makes a lot of lovely painterly florals like this one. Diane says, just got my mat I ordered from Soul Sweetness, really fast delivery. Well, that's something great to hear. I know delivery these days has been taking a little longer, but I'm glad you received the mat in quick order. Cynthia says, are you planning on getting any more of the jeans blue cork fabric in? I just ran out and noticed it's out of stock. So that will be cut. We have that on the cutting table for tomorrow. So hopefully we can get that listed at the end of the day tomorrow. And we do have a whole roll to cut, so plenty to go around. Roxy says, you've probably answered this before, but if I make a quilted cotton bag with a cork bottom, can it still be washed? You can. I've seen Michelle Graham post in the Facebook group before that she's washed that kind of combination many times. Cork is, however, water resistant, so if it's just an issue of the bottom of your bag where the cork is getting a little dirty or perhaps splashed in a puddle, something like that, you can just use a damp rag and wipe the cork off and it will be good as new. If you do need to wash the whole bag, you can either hand wash it or you can put it in the washing machine and dry, or maybe hang it dry. But we did do lots of testing before we started carrying the cork fabric 3 years ago, and one of the tests that we did was putting the washing machine and all that just to see how it would hold up. So I wouldn't necessarily wash the bag on a weekly basis, but if you needed to wash it maybe once or twice, you certainly could do that. So I think Danny's calling on the questions, right, Danny? Thank you so much for all of your lovely comments and questions. I apologize if I did not get to your question live, but I'll be back again next Sunday answering more questions when Danny joins me on the show. So the giveaway for tonight is 6 end cuts of cork fabric, and by end cuts I just mean usually when we get to the end of the roll we don't have enough for a full-sized piece, and so we collect those pieces and I'll occasionally use them for giveaways. And so just a couple pieces from my stash. Your colors may be different than these, but we're giving away 6 end cuts of cork fabric, and these are actually, I know these look like big pieces, but these are actually end cuts. So certainly enough to make a bag or a pouch, or at least accents and straps for a bag. So all you have to do to enter the giveaway is answer my giveaway question. I'll be drawing one randomly drawn winner at the end of the day on Saturday and announcing that winner as well as the 4 $75 gift certificate winners on the show next Sunday. And my giveaway question is, what is your favorite marking pen or tool? So we talked a little bit about marking tools earlier when I talked about the Clover Choco. Definitely Clover Choco is one of my favorites. I also like using friction pens, usually on the wrong side of my fabric. Let me know your answer in the comments. Good luck to everyone. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining me for Sewcial Sunday. I had a lot of fun. It was fun investigating those printed fabrics. I hope you have a great week and happy sewing. Bye, everybody.